done it. Purchased pretty supplies we've loved, then got them home and thought, now what? What do I create with these? Even after 30 years of paper crafting, I still fear that first cut. And the prettier the paper, the bigger that fear is. But there's not just the fear of the first cut. I think decision fatigue can come into play here as well. When you get beautiful new supplies, there are so many ways that you can use them, and that can be overwhelming. I've found creating way more fun when I have fewer creative decisions to make. And today I want to show you how I do just that. First though, let me show you the stunning supplies I'll be working with. For today's project, I'll be working with the March kit from Hip Kit Club, and here's a quick look at all of the beautiful papers that are included. I'll show you the B-sides for these papers as well as the coordinating embellishments, but I did specifically want to share with you a new addition to the kits. Oh my gosh, how cute is the bow paper? It's my favorite. This collection is called Sweet Moments, and it has a very spring-like feel to it. Lots of pretty pastels, lots of florals, and lots of embellishments. There are some really versatile pieces included, and I especially love this pack of tag elements. Now here's the best bit. What's also included is this project sheet. It includes full step-by-step instructions so you can create 3 different layouts using the supplies from the kits. And if you're more of a visual learner, you can join the Craft and Connect live stream right here on YouTube. It's a great way for you to be able to connect with the Hip Kit community, and we can all create beautiful things together. The class is free, it's recorded too, so if you miss the live session, you can watch it on replay. You can scan this code right here or click the link below to get started. Here's a look at the photos I'm working with today. I have 3 for this layout, and don't mind that little pink stick-it note, that's just covering up some personal details. Today's layout is also loosely inspired by one of the projects included in this month's project sheet. These project sheets really do give you a jumping off point, somewhere to start when you crack open that brand new kit. Of course, you can create the projects exactly as you see them on the project sheets, but today I want to show you how you can be inspired by them and how those sheets can help you reduce decision fatigue. Generally speaking, you might think that more options is better, but I've actually found the opposite to be true. I found that I create pages faster and more easily when I have fewer options to choose from. A big part of my process is actually eliminating choices and eliminating supplies and narrowing down my focus. I've already done that today by narrowing my focus down to a single kit that I'm using, as well as focusing on just one layout example. I'm not going to copy it exactly, but I am going to be inspired by it, and it will be the single focus of my page design. I'm going to use it to help me make decisions. For example, the page I'm inspired by has 3 photos. So I haven't made the choice of how many photos should I use. I am using 3 because the page I am inspired by has 3. Making crafty decisions can be hard. I really struggle with it sometimes. So whenever I can sort of trick my mind into thinking that I haven't made that decision, I just find this whole process so much more enjoyable. To get me started, I am going to do what I've always done. I'm going to create a border for my layout and then mount each of my photos with a thin mat and sew around all of the edges. So even that wasn't really a decision. That was just me doing what I always do. At this point, I do also now have a bit of a plan for my photos. Because I'm working with 3, I have decided to use a smaller format for each photo, and I want to cluster them together. I want them to nestle in quite tightly with each other. Once I know exactly where my photos are going to be placed, I can build out the layout from there. My next focus in creating the page is to build out my paper layers, and I'm going to use the journaling embellishment pack to help me do that. I'm keeping this super simple by choosing a small, medium and large element from that pack and then nestle them in against each other. I also want to have this layout weighted towards the right. That's actually how it is in the example page. It's not centered on the layout, but it's sort of pushed a little bit to the right there. One less decision that I have to make, so I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to keep things simple here for this part as well. All I've done is created 2 paper strips, and I'm going to position them slightly in from that right-hand side. Adding those paper strips will create an anchoring point for the layout. So that's the point that all of the photos and embellishments are going to flow from. Oh yes, and I did go ahead and add just a row of stitching in the center of those strips. I'm going to lift up the edges for some texture. I can now go ahead and reposition my photos back onto the layout. I am going to do a little bit of fussing here. That collection of journaling spots, that is actually going to end up being the base for my main embellishment cluster. So I want to make sure that there's space there for that. And I'm very conscious about where the paper layers overlap each other. I don't want anything to line up too perfectly. I want all of that outside edge, those lines, to be very dynamic and interesting. For the embellishments, I am going to create a visual triangle. What I'm trying to do is create 3 points of interest on the page that when you draw a line to connect them, it creates a triangle. In theory, my photo should fit within that triangle. So here you can see I do consider having a flower in the center there, but for me the triangle wasn't including enough of the photos. So I've decided to make my 3rd point in the triangle on the left-hand side there. Now to make this just a little bit more complicated, I prefer to create what I call flowing clusters. So rather than having 3 static points on the layout, I like my clusters to sort of flow together and help lead the eye around the page. If you'd like to learn a lot more about how I build my embellishment clusters, I do have a playlist here on the channel. I'll link it above and in the description box below so that you can watch it next. You know, it's quite often that I will go back to techniques or sketches or designs that I've already used before. I don't see the benefit in trying to reinvent the wheel every time I try to make a page. I generally stick to techniques and ideas that I've used in the past that have created pages that I love. If it's worked before, it can work again, and it's one less decision that I have to make. I also want to tell you about the really unique floral die cuts that come in this pack. I end up using 2 of them on this layout, and they come with pre-punched holes so that you can very easily add a hand-stitched element to them. I'm going to use some plain white DMC embroidering thread for this. I've tied a double knot in the end, and then I'm just using the circles that are pre-punched and working from the inside of the flower to the outside of the petals. You'll even notice that there's little lines there that help guide your stitches. This took no time at all to do, and it's going to add a really lovely extra element to this page. It's the kind of detail that looks complicated but isn't. Oh my gosh, how cute do they look? I'm obsessed. And I didn't tell you, there's actually a die. So you could cut these kinds of flowers out of any pattern paper you like. I still have plenty more embellishing to do, and I've got lots of choices with the supplies I have left. I want to build on and add interest to the clusters that I have already, and that bottom section of the layout is looking a little bit empty for my liking, so I do want to fill that in as well. I'm looking for quite a broad selection of sizes in my embellishments, and I do like that these kits do include that. So I have the flowers there that are really quite large, but then I do have options in these cute little puffy stickers to add those smaller details. Things are getting serious because I am gluing stuff down. As things come together and I'm really happy with the layers, I will lock everything into position with a liquid adhesive. It's time for some more hand stitching. I love the look of the floral that I did earlier, and I found that a page looks much more consistent when you replicate elements in each of your clusters. So I'm going to replicate the blue flower with this pink one. All done, and this one's going to go up the top here. You can see here now how everything looks a lot more cohesive. Even the flower that's on the left hand side there, whilst it doesn't have any stitching, it is in a very similar style, and I feel that those three embellishment clusters are working together really well now. I'm loving what I've put together so far, but I think this layout needs even more. The kit comes with these foam buttons. They're like a faux button. They're not real. They're made of foam, but they also do have a spot where you can add hand stitching. And I think it's going to be another lovely detail that will bring this layout together. I'm also not sure whether the layout needs a title. It feels quite finished, but not quite finished enough for me. So it's the very next day, and I have finished off the layout off camera. I've gone ahead and added my title, which I nestled into this space here. I was a little bit concerned about the emptiness in this area, so I filled that out by adding a die cut and the title. I've also filled out some of the embellishment clusters with those foam buttons that I prepared yesterday. So I've added an extra button up the top here and then one in this cluster here. This helps reinforce that visual triangle that I was talking about earlier. I've also added in a couple of extra die cut pieces into the cluster just to round those out, and now the layout's complete. Here you can see the close-up details. I wanted to share with you all of those beautiful paper layers and of course the detail in those stitched flowers. I love the buttons too, and those puffy alphas in my title. So you've conquered the fear of the first cut, and you now have strategies to fight decision fatigue as you create. But there's something I didn't mention in today's video. A cluttered craft room could be stopping you from creating at your best. If your craft room feels overwhelming, you need to watch this video next. I share my top tips for creating a clutter-free space so that you have more time to create. I'll see you all again very soon. Until then, bye!